Today's guest is Madelaine Weiss. She is a psychologist, among other things, and she is a member of the Been There, Got Out Club. So we want to talk about, and there she is. I see you, Madelaine, and hopefully we're going to make this work. My guests have not, but let's see if we can get her on here to talk about how. Oh, I'm glad. Look at that. We're going to talk about how to co-parent with a counter-parent, especially because ours are the cases, and it sounds like Madelaine's lived through this too,
I
of
have.
the extreme, not normal divorce, not normal parenting time back and forth. And everyone's always like, my life, I feel like I'm dealing with a terrorist. How can I be a great parent to my kids and be a co-parent with someone who's just trying to destroy everything? So before we even introduce you, Madelaine, can you um, mention, like, what does a good co-parent even mean? What is that supposed to look like?
Well, I don't think that's the hard part, actually. I think we all, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I think we all have kind of a sense of how we want to be as a co-parent. The harder part is not knowing what that is, but more um, actually being able to walk that when we're feeling triggered. And
Yeah,
there's so much triggering. I think I'm going to guess even under the best of circumstances.
really. See, I don't know the best of circumstances.
Well,
I only
I
know the
do.
worst.
I do. And
Okay.
and I know the best and the worst, actually. So, and yeah, I th I think it's not a fun business under any circumstances. Even even the most amicable divorces, I think, are triggering. I'm just
Really?
saying. I think so.
Interesting. All right. So before we even get into triggers and co-parenting and counter-parenting, Madelaine, why don't you officially introduce yourself? Who are you and what's your background?
Oh my, that would take all of our time. So I am let's see, a licensed psychotherapist with an MBA. So a lot of people come to me at first to talk about their careers. And then we wind up talking because everything's connected to everything else. I'm board certified in executive career and life coaching. I've also studied Eastern philosophy for about 30 years, teach
Wow.
mindfulness training and that sort of thing. I had an early loss in my life that I believe directly connects to, if not explains, some of the difficulties I had in marriage. I have learned so much that I'm proud to say that I don't think I've laid hands on a marriage that hasn't improved because of what I learned and what I could bring to it.
Ooh.
Except, except early in my training, when a clinic client talked to me about her husband was holding a gun to her head. So I didn't save that marriage, but the rest of them, they're just some little things that can make all the difference in the world, and they're probably not very different from the kinds of things that make divorces better also.
Okay, so we're not going to talk about keeping people together today because that is not in the cards for our community at all. All of them
Got it.
are out. But
Got it.
but I'm sure, some of the stuff you mentioned will certainly be helpful for them as they move into the we are separated and trying to still raise these children together
You know,
arena.
I'm reflecting on that. I mentioned that, and it goes directly to the singular major message I want to impart with you today.
Okay.
And I think I mentioned it to you before that I think the most critical and painful injury through the divorce process is to our sense of our goodness as a human. And isn't it interesting that I had to tell you about my goodness in helping to save these marriages because I had failed in a couple of my own. So
Mm.
there it was, full blown. It doesn't go anywhere. It has to be managed. That there's this injury to the sense of one's goodness. And it comes up for sure when, as you mentioned, there's a co parent who's making us bad.
Yeah.
So it goes right there to what I think is the most painful spot, the sense of our own goodness as a human being.
Yeah, I mean, you've really gone way beneath just the co-parenting thing, but you said triggers and now what's underneath that, those that sense of not feeling like I'm good enough. And
That
our ex,
is that is the trigger.
yeah.
Somebody says something bad about you, the kids come in, they've just been with their other parent, and the other parent said all kinds of things about our badness. It goes right there to that really, really tender spot because we are biologically, I study a lot of evolutionary psychology, we are biologically programmed to need to think that we are good.
Mm.
So it's really a severe cut when someone is casting us as bad. And the
Well,
and the reason for that is because back in the day when the modern human brain was forming, if you didn't have a reputation for being good, you didn't get fed. They wouldn't even give you a burial. They wouldn't take care of your kin. So you might have been left at, so the human brain is programmed to make sure that we have the proper social status, that we are good. And so anything that's a wound to that is very triggering. And then we don't become our best selves. And then we see ourselves behaving ungracefully. And it makes us feel, well, maybe it's true. Maybe we're not
mm,
such a good human. So it just
I mean,
spirals down. Yeah, go ahead.
what you're describing is actually the way that our clients' exes harm them. They make them feel like they're a terrible parent and a terrible person. And because we specialize in legal abuse, when someone is trying to use the legal system to wear our client down and bleed them dry financially, they live with a constant sense of dread. If I'm not perfect, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to lose everything. They're going to take the kids away. I'm going to be homeless,
There it is.
penniless. I don't know how I can go on with my life. So it's not even about goodness. It's like I feel like I'm bad all the time. I feel like I'm trying to do everything right, and nothing I do is right. Everything I do is wrong, and it's the same power dynamic from being in the relationship, even getting out post separation. We meet many highly successful people who still feel like they're bad
Yes.
because it's their ex's voice still in their head.
Well, let's pause there for a moment.
Okay.
I think it's a collaboration.
All right. Let's hear that.
I don't, it, I, so Freud's granddaughter was one of my professors, and she said, I remember vividly when she said, there's an ounce of truth in every projection because the projection needs a hook to hang itself on. So if we're not already questioning how good we are, how bad we are, if we're not already a little vulnerable there, then what they do and what they say falls to the floor.
Hmm.
If we're already questioning it, there's a hook to hang it on.
That makes perfect sense.
So what's really important is to be able, so I'm a big fan of polyvagal breathing. And for anyone who's listening, if you go to my website, madelineweiss.com, there's a tab that says power breathing. And I've named it that because I think it's so powerful. And it only takes 30 seconds, which
Got it.
is It's free. You could do it anywhere, anytime, for any reason. It only takes 30 seconds. And what that does is when we're falling into a more reptilian reactivity kind of thing, like because we got triggered and then we react, and then
Mm-hmm.
we feel bad about ourselves for behaving so shamefully. This creates the pause. It stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. So the parasympathetic nerve goes from the abdomen all the way up to the higher brain. And that's exactly what you want to do, because when you're triggered, this is the hand model. It's Dan Siegel's hand model of the brain. When you're triggered, the amygdala is going berserk. It knocks the higher brain offline. We're raw and we're behaving like raw emotion, and then we feel bad about ourselves for having done that. So you do this little 30-second, it's belly breathing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different from filling the chest. You fill the belly, and there's a one sheet instruction for everybody on there. And what it does, this is the higher cortex,
Mm-hmm.
it integrates it. So the amygdala can say, I can't believe he said that. I am feeling so triggered right now. I just want to strangle somebody or whatever, whatever. And the higher brain says, thank you for sharing. I got it from here. And then it figures out how it's going to, not to be so trite, but respond rather than react
Mm-hmm.
in ways where we kind of lose our grace. You could tell I've lost my grace a couple times, so I know what I'm from whence I speak. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that pause is what's so hard. I mean, we work with that not from the therapeutic perspective, but from communication. Our clients often are have to communicate, and every time they receive something from their ex, their body feels it in their throat, in their stomach. It's like this, oh my gosh, what's it going to be? I'm going to be in trouble. I'm going to lose something. I'm bad. And so we also try to work on pausing before responding. We have a whole bunch of ways that we do that, but people often want to just respond immediately. I want to say this right now. I just popped off and said something back. And it's like, no, because now you didn't only feed the person who's trying to trigger you, but there's an invisible audience that's going to be looking at your communication because you're going to be back in court. And we can't let you do, can't let you mess up like that.
It feeds the very sense of badness that we're trying to heal.
Mm,
It needs to be healed. It needs to be cared beautifully for. And what that does is it wounds it over and over again. And just knowing just a little bit about neural connections, um, the more they fire together, every time they fire, they wire. So the trauma that we're trying to sort of outgrow or and move past gets stronger and stronger and stronger every time we enact it. So it's really, really important to do that reset, that 30-second mindset reset, to be able to center yourself and say, was it Plato who said life is a play and we have to play our part well? So to center ourselves, to be able to say, who do I want to be in this drama?
yeah.
And
What you just said about how reacting that quickly makes your trauma worse is interesting. So we often say it's you're not getting any better, but you're saying it's actually making it worse for you to keep reacting in the same way that you've been doing it.
oh my God, yes. Yeah, because it hurts us to see ourselves that way. And it also confirms everything that people are saying about us as being bad.
Mm,
It it kind of makes them right. Like you just like look at her or look at him.
Yeah,
Look how they
out of
act.
control. They have no control over themselves.
Yeah. So it really feeds that sense of badness that we really want to heal.
Yeah, interesting. So
Yeah.
you talked about, was it the polyvagal breathing, your power breathing? So what are some other ideas that you have for how people can go in a better direction rather than deteriorate with these quick responses?
Yeah. One thing I feel really strongly about, and people kind of me when I say it, but then when they finally like give it a try, they see that it kind of makes sense. And it's I think venting is overrated.
Venting meaning telling
Venting
people how
meaning,
upset you are?
yeah, like calling your 10 best friends
Yeah,
every hour
yeah.
to say, and the person did this and the person did that, and it goes on and on and on. Again, going back to the neural connections. Every time you go over it, you lock it in.
That makes sense. I mean, that's how I feel sometimes when people want to ask, or in the past, when I was in court for all those years, people would ask about it. And I almost didn't want to talk about it because it just stirred everything up all over again.
So, so sometimes I think of like the brain like has a marble and there are grooves. And if you picture the marble doesn't know where to go, so it goes wherever the groove is.
Hmm.
And if you're going over the like over and over it and over it, you're making the groove like even deeper, and the marble can't go anywhere but there, which is to the triggering and the triggering response. So what's the good news is that the brain we now know is plastic, and we can make new neural connections. So we can, I'm not saying that ever, 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 never to be critical of ourselves for getting triggered. But what we want to do is to be able to sort of transcend and respond in a way that is befitting, that is dignified, that speaks well of us, and to everyone else. And there we are back to the pause so that we can say again, rather than calling up our 10 best friends to say, you're not going to believe what just happened, which makes the groove deeper. Instead, we say to ourselves, who do I want to be here? How do I want to be here? What kind of mother do I want to be? What kind of father do I want to be?
When you're describing, I've heard the term a trauma loop, and how you have to be careful with certain communities who just go around and around complaining how bad everything is, and
Yeah,
it just keeps you down.
it's not real good for our health. It doesn't make anything better. And you asked me, like, what's a myth? That's one of the myths, is that if you talk about it, you'll feel better. And I want everybody to kind of notice, do you really? Do you really feel better? Like, we might feel better immediately that we're not alone, that there's someone there, that someone cares, but we inadvertently are locking the trauma in that we really want to be able to grow and step out of.
Hmm. So,
So, yeah, go ahead.
okay, so say something happens, I'm totally triggered. I held it in front of my kids, but it's cycling around my head, and I'm questioning myself and thinking I should have said something differently. And I want to talk to someone. I want to get rid of it. What can I do to get it out?
Well, I like the idea of asking ourselves who we want to be. In the next frame of this movie we call life. We're right, we're the producer and director of our lives. And that's mostly what we have more control over than all the other things we wish we had control over. Like if only we could get that person, place, or thing to be somehow different than it is. But I implore people to try, ask yourself, who do you want to be? And be that. And keep practicing, practicing, practicing till that becomes who you believe you are. And how you get to believing in your goodness, that you're a good person on this planet, is seeing yourself doing it. You can't just, no one can tell you you're good if you think you're not. You have to see yourself acting, behaving, responding in ways that you admire.
All right, so let's like break that down into some more specific stuff because I think it's a little broad for some people who don't feel like they're good. How can they change from feeling bad, feeling like I'm a bad person, to I'm not a bad person, I'm a good person? Like, what's the in between part? What are some ways that we can start doing that?
Okay, so someone can ask themselves, what would a good person do in this situation?
Okay.
And I believe in the Goldilocks principle. So that would put them on a path. And it's not magic. It's practice, practice, practice over time. But at least their idea, and it's not what somebody else thinks is a good person, it's what each individual defines a good life. And so the reason I mentioned the Goldilocks principle is that our expectations of ourselves should not be so big that we figure, I just can't, and therefore nothing changes. But they should also not be so small, the changes that we make. Nobody gets out of a session with me typically without an action step. So I'm talking about action steps here. So some action step, like what can I do that would be consistent with my idea of the person I want to be, the kind of person I would really admire. So again, you don't want it to be so ridiculously big that it's not realistic and it's never going to happen, and why bother? But you also want it to be big enough that your brain takes notice, like, huh, something different just happened. And then you build on that little, but so it's not too big, not too little, because the brain will get bored and check out if nothing's happening. If nothing's happening, nothing's going to happen. So
Yeah.
it has to be like ongoing, all day, every day, with a mind toward this is the path I want to be on. And if everybody gave up when they fell off their bicycle, or when they try to learn how to walk, like a baby trying to learn how to walk, they don't fall down and say, oh, forget it, I'm never going to be able to do this, you know? So you just practice, practice, practice. I was working with somebody yesterday who really, really turned a corner. And uh, she said, I have no words for it. I said, how fascinating that it's because it's so new, where you've never been before. You don't even have a language for that, but stay there. And pretty soon it'll feel like it's you.
So let's say like a situation like this where my kid comes back from their other parents' house and they are giving these poisonous messages that we talked about before of like mom or dad said you're really mean to them, you must be mean, why are you being so mean to my other parent? And you feel really triggered because you're like, I'm not the mean one. What's a step someone could start to do to think I want to be better,
So in
especially
the
if they come from a family like a family of origin where maybe their parents weren't the best role models either, and they don't really know how to be a good parent.
Okay, I'm going to give everybody a trick, and it's in here.
Okay.
So, and it's also from Dan Siegel, who I'm a fan of. And he wrote a book on the kid's brain. And what happens often is the kid is in a right brain emotional meltdown, or maybe it's not a meltdown, but it's emotional. And sometimes it is a meltdown. And what parents instinctively do, which is well meaning, but not necessarily that effective, is they try to give left brain logic. They try to give understanding or another way to look at it. Or, you know, that's like under the best of circumstances. If
Mhm.
the parent is really emotionally triggered, they might, what you tell me.
Oh, scream, curse,
Okay,
bad mouth
scream,
their other
curse,
parent.
whatever.
Yeah.
Right, right. So what he would say is, and I say too, is instead of going left brain to right brain, first of all, the parent has to remember. And the more they get command over their emotional center, the easier it's going to be to remember this is a child who is in a very difficult situation, and I am the parent. There's a child in me who's also hurt, but right now, in reality, the child is hurting and I'm the parent. So instead of going left brain to right brain, trying to tell them why they shouldn't feel that way and how they should see it differently, and it's not really true, and whatever,
Mhm.
whatever we would instinctually react with, you go right brain to right brain. So I wonder how that felt for you to hear that.
Mhm.
It's not telling them, it's not telling them not to feel that. It's not telling them why they shouldn't feel it. It's not telling them that it's false, which it may be, but that's not the point in the moment. In the moment, is the child is confused or upset or misguided or whatever. And there's a parenting role, which is to be with the child in their feelings
Mhm.
before we try to take them to an emotional place. So the same thing applies to the parent. The parent needs to realize that the parent is in a very emotional place, maybe do their 30-second mindset reset so that they can then extend themselves to the child's emotional state. So
Mhm.
I had this client who was working for the Treasury, and she was traveling all the time. And every time she left, the kid would have a meltdown. And she would try to say to the kid that it's going to be fine. Daddy will take care of you, and you always have a good time with daddy, and I won't be away that long. So she was going left brain to his right brain.
Mhm.
And so I told her about all of this and asked her to try it differently. And so she said to him, I know you don't really like when I go away. Tell me about. So it got to the point where the kid got so sick of her touchy feely, you know, with
Or
his
woo-woo.
feeling, you know, he finally got to the point where he said, just go already, just go. Like, get out of here. I want to have fun.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's like
the
a
heart,
kind of
the heart,
curiosity. Yeah.
you have to touch the heart first. And that's the role of the parent. And then the parent can feel good that they actually behave like a parent, not a child.
Yeah.
And when you get triggered, like, you know, that comes from earlier places.
Hmm. So it's not just your ex that's making it happen, it's yourself from your past.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot anyone can do about how the ex is behaving. I don't
Yeah.
think. The I was just talking to somebody else who was carrying on about the world, and we talked about locus of control.
Hmm.
Like, what do you have control over? And pretty much in the kinds of things you're talking about, the only thing we have control over is ourselves.
Hmm.
We can't dictate how the kids are going to behave. We can't dictate how the ex is going to behave. The only thing we have control over is how we respond to it. And that's critical to everything. That can help
And
reshape everything just by putting ourselves in a better place for ourselves. I really think affects, well, for sure affects the children, but also can have an impact outside of that.
yeah, I mean, everything you're saying resonates, and I think about how years ago my son, who's now an adult, but he was doing an interview with somebody about his experience of a child being in the middle of all the chaos, and the interviewer said, "What did your mom do to help you the most to get through it?" And he said, and I didn't know he was going to say this. He said she kept it together. And that echoes what you're saying. If a parent can keep it together and be self regulated as much as possible, then that's what's the most helpful to a child.
It's also most helpful to the parent
Yeah.
for their sense of self,
Mm-hmm.
which you could see I'm making a really big deal out of because it feels to me like that's the center of the constellation that's all around it is that self-regulation, which was a good term. Yeah.
Yeah. So you had talked about how venting is not good for us, and you explained why. But what about this concept of being in good company?
Yeah, I love that. So I studied at Vedanta for like 25 years, believe it or not. I was studying Buddhism. I was dabbling in Buddhism and Advaita Vedanta. And I noticed that all of these traditions go to the same place. But the Advaita Vedanta was all about abundance, and Buddhism was sort of the opposite, like the self is nothing,
Mm-hmm.
and the self was everywhere. And I remember walking into their they had this antique home where they did all the classes, and I walked in and I saw flowers and nuts and art. It was just so gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you go into a Buddhist temple, it's much more sparse and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, you know what? I think I'll go through that door. So I studied them for over with them for over 25 years. And that's where the concept of good company comes from. In fact, there's a book with that title that comes from that tradition. And what I understand it to mean is not just the people that you're with. And I'm going to connect this to the venting in a
Okay.
second. It's not just the people that you're with, it's the books you read, the food you eat, the music you listen to. Hear me now. It's the thoughts in your head that are not always good company. And we can learn to have better mastery over which thoughts get to linger and which don't. And it also includes the people in our lives. So when I say this business about calling up your 10 best friends and carrying on, about, I'm not saying not to have people in our lives to support us, but there's a certain quality of the conversation, of the types of people, and what that puts inside of you. And you want the food, the drink, the literature, the movies, the friends, the thoughts in your head to be the highest quality that you can find. And that kind of replaces sort of the negative, almost sickening sometimes, venting, and puts repairs that sense of goodness, I think. You
I,
know, you know how they say you're like the average of the five people closest to you? It's
yeah.
not just like seeing yourself in a way that you can admire, but find people that you admire. Not people that you can talk trash with necessarily, but people that you can admire. And that I think heals the wound of divorce.
I know you can probably see I'm writing. I always write during conversations, and you've said so many things that I want to comment on, but two in particular, it's something we tell our clients as well in our community is to not doom scroll. Don't, when you're in the midst of all this trauma, especially dealing with court, that it's not a good idea to read horrible articles about kids that are severely harmed or worse by a co-parent, because then you start thinking that's going to happen to my kid, or people who lose in family court all the time, because that's going to affect how you move forward in your own case, because you're going to start feeling like it's only going to be bad. So what you're saying makes so much sense. And the
So
other thing is,
you didn't call it bad company, but it's bad company.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then the other thing, and this is something we talk about in our current book, is that I got the idea from Bill Eddy, who is the founder of the High Conflict Institute and has written about 20 books. But he talks about the concept of positive and negative advocates, and how negative advocates may love you and care for you. They could be family members, but they will fan the flames of the conflict. You deserve this. This shouldn't be happening. If I were you, I'd be doing this. And that's not the people you want to surround yourself with right now,
Hmm.
because they're not helping your family. Instead, you want positive advocates, not that they're Pollyanna-ish, but they're going to try to be as helpful and neutral as possible to lessen the conflict and get you through this, and be more about like what's best for your kids and what's best for you, and maybe what could be helpful even to your ex, because the goal is really to get you and your family through it as healthy and unscathed as possible. So it's the opposite of like this indignant like this is what you deserve and this is why you should get it, because it just makes, like you said, everyone feels worse. And when we meet people who have, they're like, oh, my parents said that this should be happening and my friends say that they would be doing this, and I'm so confused. And it's like, let's just pause for a second and put that all aside and think, well, what's the goal and how
It's
can we get there,
actually,
putting it
it's
aside.
actually, it's actually toxic.
It's toxic. Yeah, I know.
It isn't
So,
healing.
and that's the thing too, it's not even just friends and books, et cetera, but it's the professionals that you choose to work with.
Oh
You
yeah,
want to work with professionals who don't fan the flames, because we know a lot of them do.
yes, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're getting a question now. How should I answer to my 12-year-old daughter when she mentions that she's going to live with dad when I have been the only one in her life? Oh, we see this a lot. So, Madelaine, what would you say to this?
I would say, tell me more about that. You know, it's a little bit different, but not 100% different. When I was 15, my father died suddenly. And I don't think anyone asked me what it meant to me, how I felt, what I
Really?
imagined. Honestly, I cannot remember. I remember people loved me. I remember they hugged me,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't remember people going directly at, tell me about it. Tell me how this is for you. Tell me what this means to you. So when her daughter says that, I get it. I actually went through something like that. I get how triggering that is. But if we remember that we're a parent, then the response is to give the child a parent who's there. So the child is not alone in whatever her feelings are about that. And who knows, sometimes the kids trigger us because they're mad at us. So if we let them know, create an environment where they can let some stuff out, we might find out, who knows, that she doesn't really want to live with her father. She's just pissed at her mother because she took her phone away the other day when she was bad or something,
Yeah.
you know. But tell me about it.
Mm-hmm. So tell me more are
Yeah,
the magic words.
yeah, yeah. As a way to there's there's nothing worse, I guess, than feeling alone in an emotionally difficult situation. And you know that sometimes the parents have all they can do to deal with all that they have to deal with, that it's hard for them to be emotionally present for the children. But I think that's the best thing they can do for their kids and themselves, because it, I think, is effective and it lowers the tension for the kids. So I don't know if that helps, but
Yep, they wrote, yes, that was it. So thank
oh,
you.
good.
That's really helpful. So Madeline, how can people find you?
Well, wait a minute. Thank you
Okay.
for that. And I'll tell you, I just want to make sure that all your listeners know that both of my children are grown up and happily married. My daughter has three grown children. My son has two younger children. My grandson is getting married in September, and I feel, oh, so I'm going to my goodness, to my sense of goodness. Even though I went through two divorces, these children turned out amazing. Did I worry about them the whole time when they were younger? Absolutely. Was I
Same.
was I not graceful all the time? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But it can it can be done. Just get yourself on the path of who do I want to be in this world, and practice, practice, practice being your higher self, especially because it's so easy to get triggered. So, yeah,
And surround yourself with good company rather than getting sucked into those
yeah,
negative social media. We are on social media now, but
yeah,
negative groups that just keep you looping around how unfair everything is. Because, like you said, it's like the marble in the groove of your brain. It's just going to make it worse for you.
yeah. Find people, uh, readings, social media, thoughts in your head that inspire you. There's a tendency to want to be in the gutter and have support for you there. Don't. Find ways to be inspired. There's plenty of inspiration out there. Be
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so it's MadelaineWeiss.com and everything is there. So my social media is there and I can be reached through there. I can also be reached weissmadelaine@gmail.com. I have blog posts on
Someone's
the,
asking if you have a book, Madeline.
I have two books.
I'm wondering if this is the one that you held up before. Oh, no, different. Oh, getting to GREAT, getting to great.
Yeah, so this, and then my mostly, I work mostly with adults, but then I work with them about their kids. And they also would say to me, how come no one told me any of this when I was 8? It would have saved me a lot of, you know, and if somebody had told me all of this when I was 8, yeah. So I figured, all right, somebody's got to do it. I did a search and I didn't see anything like this. And so we have that.
What's your
And
story?
my granddaughter, Gabby, consulted with me.
That's great. So, Madeline, quickly before we go, I didn't even ask you this, but where are you from? I'm guessing New York?
Philly,
Philly. I had made the same mistake yesterday. It was your accent is a little heavy and it sounds kind of Brooklyn-y.
I lived in Missouri for 3 years.
Oh, okay. I hear so much New York in that accent from a New
And
Yorker.
and everyone thought I was from New York.
Yes.
Everyone. And I would tell them all the time. I said, you think everybody on the East Coast is from New York. That's the problem here. Philly.
No, I hear it. All right. Well, repeat your website one more time, just in case, how people can find you.
MadelaineWeiss.com. Are they gonna see the spelling of that? Because it's weird.
Well, we have it in the description.
Okay. All
Because
right.
Madeleine is with an A at the end.
And also, I offer a complimentary strategy session. So,
Ooh.
yeah, so that's a freebie. The blog is a freebie. The power of breathing. I really hope, I really hope people download that. It's so
Yes. Well, I'm
good.
going to check it out
It's so
myself.
good. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming on today and for taking the
Hey,
time. Some of these are so helpful.
I loved it. It was really great to talk with you. It's nice to give back this way on that topic. Been there, done that. I know. I know how
Yeah.
hard it is, but I also know how possible it is to come out of it on better footing. So,
Yeah. And this is what we need. Those people who are still in the muck need these stories of hope,
yeah,
especially that their kids are going to be okay.
yeah.
All right, let's stay in touch.
Yes. Take
Okay,
care.
bye, Madeline. You too.